Hey, this is Abe.
And this is Alexa.
Welcome back to the Get Out and Enjoy Life podcast, or GOEL.
Today we're talking about our spur of the moment trip to the Oregon coast.
Yeah, so I don't know what it was, if it was that we had just gotten back from Italy and we were kind of like jonesing to go on another trip or what, but we've done this once before where we've just like within a couple of hours, actually like twice before.
Yeah, we've done it twice.
Where we've picked somewhere to go, either bought a flight or booked a hotel, and then went within a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of fun to do these spur of the moment trips sometimes, especially if they work out well, because it's exciting to go to a new place. And I think Abe and I really have the travel bug, especially after we were just in Italy. We got to go to so many different places, so we were like, where have we not been yet? So we threw out a bunch of ideas. Abe came to me and was like, let's go on a trip.
Yeah, so we decided that we wanted to try to keep it, as cost effective as we could. So we decided not to do a flight anywhere.
Yes, but we were thinking about it.
We had thought about it. And so we decided that we could do a trip somewhere that we could drive to.
Yeah.
And Alexa had talked about Canon Beach. You've been talking about it for what, about 2 years or so?
Yeah, because I've always seen images of it. People talk very highly of it. And it's a beach. It's somewhere different. It's somewhere we both haven't been. So I thought, why don't we go there? My idea of this short trip was like, we should go somewhere within 5 hours of driving.
Right. And this Canon Beach is within like 3.5, I think, of us driving.
It's not that crazy to go to Oregon either. Like
No.
A lot of people do that
From
trip
Washington.
from
yeah.
Washington.
One of my fears was like, what are we going to do at Canon Beach? But then, you don't always know what you're going to do when you go to a place. And it's a beach,
Right.
so we figured like if there wasn't a whole bunch to do, we could just at least hang out on the beach since it's still summertime.
Yeah, and when I thought about it, I was like, well, I've heard there's shops to see. I've heard there's restaurants, there's stores, there's places to walk around. We could go hit the beach. We could go hang out on it. We could go throw a frisbee around. So I thought there's some options. It'll be a slower paced trip.
Yeah. So we ended up booking. I booked a hotel at the hotel, which was the Best Western, and we booked that for one night. And then
I found a little tiny house. So actually, the hotel that Abe booked was in Seaside, Oregon,
Right.
and 20 minutes away is Canon Beach.
Yeah.
So I found this little tiny home. It was like this vacation rental site through this agency. And it looked really cute. Abe and I talk about tiny homes all the time. We're very interested in them. And we thought it'd just be fun to try out.
And we've never stayed in one. And so we were like,
No.
yeah, it'd be a good practice since we've, talked about buying one for our first home. So we ended up, Alexa booked that. We drove down to Seaside.
Yeah.
And it was like we got there right at like sunset, which was like around 8:30. Well, we got there around 8 o'clock, and sunset was like at 8:20, 8:30, and it worked out beautifully.
And what was really nice is that the Best Western sits literally on the promenade, like on the boardwalk.
Yeah.
And so we could walk right to the beach.
So we walked out to the beach, and wow, the beach was
huge,
really big.
Yeah.
I honestly, there's a lot of beaches called Long Beach, and I was kind of joking. I'm like, this should be called Long Beach. Like, It took us probably. We didn't even walk out to the water on the first day, but when we did, it took us probably, 10 to 15 minutes to walk.
It took forever.
Yeah.
I felt like the water was like so far out of reach. It was
crazy.
Yeah.
So we ended up sitting and watching the sunset, and then
people had their fires out there.
Yeah, there were fires
people
all
were
over.
Sitting, blankets. Some people have their tents out there, so it was really cool.
And then we went and checked into our hotel, the Best Western, and there were these three attendants that checked us in, two guys and one lady, and
they're so friendly.
Yeah, and I'm from Maui originally, or Hawaii, and so I have an 808 phone number, and one of the guys heard my phone number. He's like, "Oh, I'm from Hawaii too. Guess where I'm from?" And I'm like, I couldn't guess. He was from, I think, the Big Island, Hilo. And we got talking, and he was talking about like the Aloha Festival, which I didn't even know was a thing here in Washington.
Here in Seattle.
Yeah. And then we met the other guy. Where was he from? He was
from South Africa. So we started talking about Spam and Spam musubis.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know, it's Spam with rice on the outside, and then it's wrapped in seaweed. So it's a very popular dish to have.
And a little history on that is that it was actually created, like really sad, is that the Japanese were put into internment camps, but when they were placed in these internment camps, they were not given a lot of food variety or even food, it sounds like. And so they did the best of what they had with them, and they created Spam musubis, which was like a version of their sushi. So, and Spam musubis are amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, one of my favorite things
I honestly wish they created a vegetarian Spam. I know it probably wouldn't taste the same, but like some sort of like equivalent.
Try.
Oh man. You can do tofu Spam musubis, but they're not the same.
Yeah, it isn't.
So we got talking about the Spam musubis.
And then the guy from South Africa, he said that they're really into corned beef. Is that what they said?
Yeah, I think it was corned beef.
So that's like their version of Spam, and they put it with rice, and they have it like all kinds of different ways.
He was talking like they put like potatoes, carrots, and like cabbage,
a stew type thing.
And also over there they have like these, it sounds like big, I don't know, festivals or get-togethers, and he said the food is just amazing. So it was on our bucket list.
Yeah.
And then the lady didn't have a whole bunch to talk about, but she was checking us in.
She was very sweet.
She was very nice. And we got up to our room, and we had booked this room only a couple hours ago, and there were 2 full queens, or what is that, full bed?
Which we were confused about because I thought Abe had,
and I did.
just got 1 queen. We weren't sure what.
But the room
happened.
Was huge. Oh my gosh.
Huge.
It felt like bigger than our apartment.
One of the biggest hotel rooms I feel like I've stayed in a while.
It was a really pleasant surprise. It had a bathtub and everything.
And also, one thing that I didn't realize I kind of took for granted in a hotel room, especially after our last trip, was having a microwave. That's not something that we had to heat up food or anything. So it was kind of nice to have because we brought some things. We brought some food with us, so we were able to use it.
One of the other things that I think you were more impressed with was that it had a desk and a table. Like we don't have
like a dining room table.
Right. We don't have a table in our apartment. There's just not enough room for it. And
how the space is laid out, it just doesn't work.
We have an island, but we don't have chairs for it.
So I definitely took advantage of the table when we were eating dinner and drinking our coffee in the morning. It was really nice because there was a huge window right there. And even though we didn't pay for a view, we had a view of the ocean.
We had a view of the parking lot, but you could see the ocean off the side.
Like over there.
If you sat on your side of the table.
I always took the side with the view because Abe was doing other things.
I was on my iPad studying and stuff. Yeah. So, that first day, we ended up walking the promenade.
Yeah, and you know what we saw while we were out there? A bunch of dachshunds.
Oh, that's right.
We saw them everywhere, and we were like, wow, this town really loves the little, little dogs.
Gosh, Seaside.
But Abe actually asked a guy who had them, and he was like, oh, there's a show actually going on for dachshunds.
That's what the guy was telling us. I was like, there's a lot of dachshunds here. You guys love dachshunds. It's like, I know.
They were all so cute. I love them.
So, and that's probably why they all looked so good.
Yeah.
Really, because they were all show dachshunds.
They were well groomed.
And they all
they're
looked
beautiful.
Young. And everything.
Yeah.
So we ended up walking on the promenade there, the beach boardwalk, if you will, and walked, the beach as well.
We ended up walking like 4 miles.
Yeah.
That morning.
We didn't even reach the end of the beach.
Like this beach is huge.
This is not Canon Beach. This is Seaside Beach.
Yeah.
It was huge. I cannot imagine like I said previously, walking from the actual boardwalk down to the water, it takes 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And we're not walking slow either.
Yeah. It also was really nice because the weather was so good. There was not a cloud in the sky. And every time I've been to any kind of coastal town in Washington or Oregon, it's always been overcast and gray, never warm. So we were really lucky we got to go on this weekend.
Yeah. It was a little chilly though. Which it actually warmed up throughout the day. We started off wearing our jackets.
Mm-hmm. And then, it'd be like 50s.
Yeah, and then warmed up to about 70 degrees.
Mm-hmm. Which is so nice. I mean, I would rather take a cooler day with sunshine. It just makes all the difference, instead of something that's like really hot or too cold or, I think it was perfect actually.
So we were looking to get something to eat and we drove into town like about 5 minutes or so, and we passed by this place called the
Pig and Pancake.
Yeah, the Pig and Pancake. P-I-G and then N.
Yeah, like apostrophe N, I think.
Pancake. And I've, Chat GPT, which everyone's heard of, I'm sure. It's free. You can download the app for free or use the Bing search engine with it. And I don't know. I download it from time to time when we travel just to see what it throws at us to like say, hey, where should I eat in this town? And it threw up Pig and Pancake. So we both hadn't had like an American like breakfast in a while.
Yeah, a long time.
So
we were like, why don't we just go there? That sounds really good.
And it was busy too.
It was super busy. I think it's a very popular place because they have it in multiple cities in Oregon. So we went there, we got our food, but I have to say that the food was very lackluster for me. I was not impressed. And I'm like, Abe and I are such foodies that, I mean, what did I get? Some sizzling.
You got roasted like vegetables.
It was like eggs. Some veggie sizzle. It's supposed to be like sizzling something. So I thought it was going to come out, on a little cast iron skillet. It was a veggie skillet.
That's right.
And it came out in a dish, and it was literally eggs.
Like
with
a ceramic dish.
Broccoli in it.
Yes.
And like all kinds of random vegetables with a bunch of cheese.
And squash.
Oh yeah, squash
Yellow
was in
squash.
It. The broccoli threw me off completely. And then there was like squash in it. I mean, that probably is good to somebody, but it was just kind of like a random concoction of things.
It wasn't, well, I think it would have been better if like the vegetables were like grilled.
Yeah, and no seasoning, you guys. No seasoning.
No salt, nothing.
No.
I
had to throw a lot of hot sauce up on that thing. Yeah.
Yeah. We got some hash browns too, which those were good. I think you loved the fruit the most.
I loved the fruit. Yes, I'm not usually a fruit person. I'd rather have vegetables instead of fruit. But the fruit was just so good. I don't know.
Yeah, and I got a pancake and eggs, and I don't know. It was okay. But
yeah, it was okay.
So
it wasn't totally awful, but it was just.
It was okay.
It was okay.
So we were like, okay, this is, okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we went and walked around a little bit, and Alexa wanted to go to the mall there, which...
oh yeah, it was like called the Carousel Mall.
Right.
It wasn't a mall like you think, like big stores,
it was
big
like
department
a mall
stores.
for a small town.
Mall for a small town. If anybody has been to Tacoma and been to the BNI, it was like that. The BNI is like this random place in Tacoma that has like a million weird shops in it, and like a carousel and like a play place for kids.
The BNI has a carousel?
Yeah, I think so, from what I remember.
I've never been there.
Anyways, I had been there as a kid. I've not gone as an adult. But it is like that. It just has random stuff in it.
Yeah, it was basically a big building with... it was, I don't know, I thought it was kind of cute because they had... It was like a big building, but then they had like rooms built in, and the shops... built like their own, like, they put up like shop like things on these like rooms, and so it looked like it was like its own thing. They had a coffee shop in there.
They had like a little arcade. They had the carousel in the center.
And the
they
carousel
had some...
was moving fast.
Oh my gosh, they literally the kids were in seat belts.
Yes.
Like it was a little bit crazy.
Hey, you gotta hand it to them. It was not a slow carousel.
Yeah, I was like, are these kids gonna fly off of here? My goodness.
But they seemed to enjoy it, so.
Yeah, but they also had like little bookstores and things with like Pacific Northwest, Oregon, like, souvenirs and things like that.
So we were looking for a little bit something else to eat, kind of more on the healthy side. So I always drink a smoothie every morning. Like I've mentioned before, and we found this smoothie shop, and it was like an amazing smoothie.
Yeah, it was like a mango smoothie.
It was
So
just
good.
mango. Yeah.
Mango and whatever else.
I think
Ice,
it was just
water.
yeah, something like that. It was
but it
really
was really,
good.
really good.
I forget the name of the shop.
Yeah.
But it was at the end on one of the streets.
And it was much needed.
Yeah, it was. And so then we were, checked out a couple of the other stores there, and we were like, well, we might as well head over to Canon Beach because it's only like 16 minutes away.
And we had like a few hours to kill, so we're like,
Before we could check into
our place, because we could only check in at 4 o'clock. So we're like, let's head there. We'll go park. We'll go walk around and see what's there. So we drive over there, and we end up heading into basically what I would consider like a downtown area of Canon Beach. Like if you've been to a small beach town, it's not really a downtown with like big buildings and things. It's usually kind of just the happening area where there's a lot of people walking around, eating ice cream, doing random things. And so we go there, we finally find parking, which it was so hard to find parking.
No, and there's no stop lights. It's all stop signs
lights.
And pedestrians are walking across.
Everybody's walking everywhere. You have to like look at multiple things while you're driving. So I got a little frustrated because people would just start walking across the street randomly. And weren't paying attention either, and taking their time.
Yeah, there's one guy, we were driving, and he just decides to walk across the street with his child, and he's looking at his phone the entire time. I'm like, oh, man.
Pay attention, there's all these cars everywhere. Anyways, we end up finding a place to park, and we go out, we kind of walk up to this area where you can see the beach, and there's like a set of stairs you can walk down to the beach. So we kind of checked it out. We couldn't really see the Haystack Rock, which is what Canon Beach is known for when you look at images of it.
I was looking at it. I think I was just doing a quick Google search, of course, and I think it's like the third largest type of like structural rock monument of its. I mean, it's natural, right? But it's like the third largest one in the world.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Which I thought was kind of interesting off of like a quick Google search, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we walked around a little bit. A lot of the stuff is more, I think, caters to a lot of the tourists. We're tourists, of course, but...
We're tourists, but it's like we're not super into the gimmicky type T-shirt shops and things like that.
There's some nice stuff. There
were some, like, glass, like, artists and things like that, that had shops. And
with us being in an apartment, there's not a lot of room to kind of buy for that thing. Unfortunately. So,
but we ended up walking around. We weren't super interested. We had also just ate previously, so it wasn't like we could really go out to a restaurant. But what we did do is we decided to drive over to the other side of Canon Beach where we could see the Haystack Rock.
Yeah. And we got coffee over there, actually.
We did get coffee at this cute little place.
Really good.
Right before it closed, actually.
Yeah, and I've been drinking cappuccinos, and I asked for a dry cappuccino, and oh my gosh, was it dry? Like, they foamed
Explain what dry is, people.
So, dry cappuccino, cappuccinos are off of weight based. And a wet cappuccino, it just has more liquid. A dry cappuccino, it has less liquid, more foam. And I thought when Alexa brought it over, she went and grabbed it from the counter. I thought it had a top on that, like the cup, but no, it was like the foam coming over.
Yeah,
I was like,
it was overflowing.
Holy smokes. I mean, they really did a good job on it. I forget the name of the shop, but
yeah, I don't know what it
was.
I
think it was like Monkey something, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Right. They roast their own coffee and stuff. What did you get there?
What did I get?
I think you got a latte of sorts.
Oh, I think I got a vanilla latte.
Right.
But yeah, it was really good, and we started chatting with this lady who lived nearby, or I think she might have just had like a vacation home nearby. Yeah. So we were trying to ask her, like, what is there to do here? What's around? So she told us about, like, the McMinimans. And she just told us how the area has changed and...
that the town is actually operating year-round now. Like, a lot of these
used
towns...
to not.
Yeah, they're more, like, seasonal with the tourists, the weather and everything. But it sounds like a lot of people come to Canon Beach year-round now.
Yeah, so it's really fun to talk to strangers, like, especially if you're in line or anything like that. Because you can really learn about an area.
Yeah.
You get to meet interesting people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she was really nice.
So, we ended up kind of going over to look at the Haystack Rock. Didn't walk down to it, and then it was time for us to check into our tiny house.
So we headed over to our tiny houses, maybe 3 minutes away from where we're staying. We drive up, and it looks a little different than what the photos look like.
And it was like really close to this other house, which is kind of interesting.
And we could see into the house.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw suitcases in there, so I was like, this is probably another property that this place owns. But, like, we could literally see into the living room and see people just on their phones, like, do-do-do.
They had the doors open and everything, which was fine. But we got up to it, and, like, the deck wasn't the deck that was pictured on the...
It looked different.
It
and,
looked
like,
the
chairs were not the same as what I saw.
The barbecue pit
wasn't. So we're like, oh, okay. And I'm like going inside because they already gave me the code. It wasn't like you had to check in at, a desk like a hotel. So we go in and we look, and like the bedding had all been changed.
It was actually, looked pretty clean.
If you just like really glanced at it really quick, it actually looked really nice. It looked like it had been kind of updated if you just look really quick.
Yeah.
But as we were in there, Abe sat on the bed. He was like, feel this bed, like it's so soft, like, and it felt like you sunk into the middle of that bed. And then
that might be privilege a little bit talking, because we do have a
very nice bed.
I forget what the name of our bed is.
Tempur-Pedic.
we have a Tempur-Pedic.
Tempur-Pedic beds, they're not cheap.
No.
Things, so we are lucky we do have that.
And we looked at the bed actually because I was like, "What type of mattress is this?" And it was a purple mattress. They're
people use those.
Yeah, but
it was just so soft. It wasn't even comfortable
No.
at that point. So Abe's sinking into the bed. We brought in all our stuff. Like we also had brought food because we knew we were going to have a little kitchen, like a mini kitchen. So we were thinking, we could just cook. We can cook meals. We can go to the local grocery store and get some food items. But as we go to the kitchen, like things are warped.
Like the boards.
This is like a beach town, so I get, that things might not look as nice because of
all the humidity. Yeah.
The humidity, the salt, the water. Just all of those different elements. But as we keep looking around, it's just not looking that great.
Yeah, and I'm like, if the boards are warped and stuff. So I grew up in Hawaii, and like in my room in my house or my parents' house, one of the things we struggle with is humidity, and so we had things to mitigate with the humidity to prevent mold and things of that sort. So there was this machine running in the background, and I honestly thought it was an AC unit at first, but then it was actually a dehumidifier.
Yeah, and actually, I think that's what clued you in to start looking around, because that dehumidifier.
So I was looking out the window, and the blinds were down. I'm like, oh, there's mold on the blinds. There's dead flies in the track, which the dead flies and stuff doesn't bother me, but the mold does. And I'm looking in the bathroom, and there's mold in the ceiling.
Yeah, honestly, there's certain things that I think we can be reasonable about, with it being a beach town, I get that there's the dehumidifier, but certain things just were a little bit off. There was dirt in the floors and
there's
dust.
A lot of dirt, actually.
Dust in different places.
Clumped, actually.
Yeah, it was packed.
Yes.
So yeah, Abe and I were like, okay, what do we do? And Abe's like, maybe it'll be okay. I'm like, no, I don't think this is gonna work out, unfortunately.
So we toyed with the idea of just going back home because it was a 3.5-hour drive or so.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to stay, so Alexa found this hotel. It's called the Salt.
It was the Salt Line Hotel.
Salt Line Hotel, yeah.
Back in Seaside, which we really liked. So we ended up booking that and going back there, and actually it was a really great hotel.
It was, yeah. It was amazing.
Yeah, super nice, modern.
Right.
Yeah.
So we ended up just staying there, and then the following day we're like, oh, what could we do? And just to back up a little bit, we had actually saw a bowling alley while we were going to Walmart or something.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, we'll book a time for that, usually because bowling alleys are usually booked on weekends.
Right.
And so we're like, oh, yeah, well, so I called, made reservations for 2 p.m. And then, so the following day, we were like, oh, what should we do? Alexa and I had, we'll talk about this in another podcast, but we had previously tried to go to Hillsborough, but...
Yeah. And that didn't work out. So yeah, we decided to do the bowling. We're like, what else are we gonna do? So then I was like, why don't we drive out
to Hillsborough?
To Hillsborough. I also wanted to go check out Beaverton.
Yeah.
Because I've never been there. So anyways, we drove out to Hillsborough. We stopped at a coffee shop. We stopped at Starbucks. Got our pumpkin spice lattes, of course. And we actually asked one of the baristas, we're like, so what's there to do here? And she was like, and she's like, well, the downtown area is really cute. And sometimes there's a farmer's market. So we're like, okay, I guess we'll check that out. Because that seems like that's the only thing that's going on. And so we headed over there. They did have a little farmer's market.
It felt all very safe, though. I got to hand it to
yeah.
them. Like,
very
the area,
clean, very safe.
Felt very family-oriented.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
So it was really cute. Lots of new stores and things like that. Farmer's market was cute, it was small. Kind of walked around there, but we weren't as interested in that. So we have a lot of farmer's markets near us. We've gone to a lot of them. So it wasn't anything there wasn't anything specifically that we wanted.
So we decided to press on to Beaverton.
I really wanted to go to the Nike store that's there because Nike is headquartered in Beaverton.
Yeah.
So we headed over there, but I didn't realize that Nike...
we walked, build up a little bit. So we parked and everything.
Yes.
We walked up to it, and it's like says use other door or something like that.
Yeah, it said something, and then this guy was like, no, you can go in. So we go in, and the guy's like, oh, do you have a special pass from a Nike employee?
We're like, no.
We're like, no. He's like, sorry, like you can't come in this store, basically.
It's a privately
owned store. It's like a
company
store, but like tons of people were walking out with bags of shoes, and I was like, well, I want the I want the shoes too.
So we couldn't go in it because we didn't have a pass. Yeah.
So I guess if we ever, meet somebody who works at Nike or just like a Nike store, maybe we can get a pass.
Yeah. So that was a bust, unfortunately, and we're like, well, we could head down to Portland, which is only like 20 minutes away. And
all these places were close to each other, so it's like might as well.
We ended up heading down to Portland, but then decided to go back. It's just because it was getting already kind of towards our bowling appointment, and we're like, we're not sure what else to do. Yeah. So we ended up driving back, and we got to the bowling alley, and oh my gosh, we were so hungry at this time because we hadn't eaten. Or we did. We ate the
hotel breakfast.
The hotel breakfast.
Yeah.
That they, I forget. Can't think of the name all of a sudden.
Salt line.
No, the type, like it's a...
Oh.
Like complimentary breakfast type of thing.
Yes, the hotel breakfast.
So, get into the bowling alley and we're like, oh, like all the lanes are open. Like none of them are lit up. And there's only one person bowling. I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
Anybody there.
So I go up to the counter and there's like these three people sitting up there. And I'm like, oh, we reserved. We're like 30 minutes late, I think, actually. So it's like 2:30, and I'm like, oh, we reserved a lane. And they're like, oh, yeah, didn't even ask us our names. Went over to the book. And we followed her over to the other side of the counter. And she's like, we can see the book, and like our name's the only name in the book.
Only name there. So really, it wasn't a problem.
No.
So, yeah, we got our shoes, got the ball. And we started bowling. I was super rusty. Yeah.
Well, we hadn't been bowling since, we had started dating, 3 years ago.
Really early. Yeah, really early on.
So it'd been 3 years since we both bowled. Yeah.
But
I ended up
really
doing,
fun.
way better. You beat me on every single game when we first started dating. So
it
felt good to actually be able to win.
Yeah, I got some mozzarella sticks, too, while we were there. Of course you need a little bowling food.
Right.
But it was fun. It just made me think, we need to do little things like that, little activities.
Yeah, it was a good little date.
Yeah.
Within a large date.
Yeah.
And so then we decided, we wanted to get something to eat, and just kind of with all the American food that we had previously, we're like, we'll try something else. We ended up going to a Vietnamese place.
Yeah, we got pho. What was yours, pho, or was it just like a soup?
I think it was tom yum.
Oh, yeah, like a seafood one.
Yeah, so that was good. And we saw
so good.
They had sriracha, like actual like brand name sriracha on the table. And we're like looking around, we're like, wow, we have not been able to find sriracha anywhere.
Yeah, since COVID happened, it feels like you don't even see those in markets or anything.
We've gone.
You see off-brand ones.
We've gone to the Asian markets here in Tacoma, and they don't have them.
Nope.
So Alexa was looking around, and she spotted like a whole shelf of sriracha.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh, they're selling them, and actually, our waitress, she was like, yeah, we're selling them $15 a bottle. Yeah. We're like, can we have one?
Yeah, so we bought one.
I mean, it'll last us like a whole year, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a big bottle of sriracha. Like, I can't believe we found it. Like,
yeah.
So, and the food was amazing.
It was so good.
Yeah, it's like for this like
the
little town with a Vietnamese place. It was really, really good. And we got Thai iced teas as well with boba. Yeah, that was amazing as well. Yeah, I feel like the Thai iced tea like filled me up so much that I couldn't finish all my.
It's so rich. I think it fills me up every single time, but I have to have it. Yeah, so good.
So, we ended up going back to the hotel and just chilling. Yeah. One of the things with hotels, though, and hostels, like the internet. To have a hotel,
kind of crappy.
Yeah. Like, I feel like sometimes, like, the internet just kind of wanes at certain parts of the day, and that part it was waning. Yeah. And then it gets better. So I don't know if it's like.
I don't know what that is, but the internet was kind of coming and going at different points. But
we were able to watch our movie, and
we just really chilled. It was a time for us to slow down a lot. Mm-hmm. And then we ended up leaving the next day.
Yeah. Drove back home, and drive was pretty uneventful. It was a gorgeous drive, though.
It is. I was telling Abe, we've been to a couple different towns on the Columbia River, and they're some of my favorite parts of like Washington and Oregon, definitely. So you get the water, you get the trees, you get the hills and the mountains. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, all the lush, green trees. Mm-hmm. Oregon is definitely a beautiful state. I know Washington's called the Evergreen State. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Oregon's is, honestly.
I have no idea.
They're like slogan for their state. Yeah, they could honestly be called the Evergreen State as well.
I was thinking that too, because it looks about the same as far as trees.
It looks even more green, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we made it back, and it was a good trip. Mm-hmm. So one of the things Alexa and I kind of talked about after going on this trip was, maybe we need areas that have more things to do, like Canon Beach and Seaside. They're great, but.
We're definitely more active travelers, and so we like a lot of activities. We like things to see. We like to do different things, whether that's just, going on a hike or going to restaurants or going to museums. I mean, we love going to museums or gardens or something like that. We need things to do, and so it's really hard for us to slow down. And really just some people love a beach vacation. And they love just going to relax on the beach, and that's it. And that's peaceful for them.
And that's okay.
But for us, it's really hard for us to do that.
Which might be a bad thing.
I'm I feel like I used to love beach vacations and slowing down, but I'm we love doing activities. We love being on the move. Mm-hmm. And we like seeing a lot of different people. We love people watching, and there's so many things we're interested in, so we think for our next trips, we probably won't do local trips.
Or, more...
I would say, when I think local, I'm thinking Washington, Oregon, anything here in the Pacific Northwest.
Because we can drive to Canada, and we've done that a couple of times.
Canada's cool, because it's a very different perspective. It's city life. Mm-hmm. We haven't been to Victoria, so maybe that's a trip we'll do in the future.
Yeah, that's close.
But anything that's Washington and Oregon, it just feels very similar to each other.
When we're staying in hotels and things. Yeah.
And also, a lot of beach towns don't have a lot to do.
Unfortunately. Yeah. Well, for us.
For us, yeah.
Like you said, hanging out on the beach. Unfortunately, we get bored. Is that a bad thing? Possibly.
I'll also say, if you're not from here and you're listening to this, the beaches here are not like beaches other places. a lot of times the beaches are rocks.
Yeah.
Luckily, we went to some sandy beaches. There are some, but the ocean is cold, so you can't really get into the water. And a lot of time these beach towns, they're way colder, than some of the inland places.
Yeah.
And so you do have to wear big puffy jackets, even if it's like 65 degrees, so it's going to feel a lot cooler.
Yeah. So we're like, we'll have to maybe look for some cheap flights and possibly do that. But thank you again for joining us on the Get Out and Enjoy Life podcast or GOEL podcast. And
we hope you get out and enjoy life in whatever way that means to you. Maybe you want to go to the beach like us. Or maybe you want to go try getting out in your neighborhood, seeing friends. Whatever that means to you, we hope you continue to join us on our journey.
Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.